Hi there. I'm Dr. Myrdalis Diaz-Ramirez, and this is the Design Your Physician Life podcast. Welcome to this episode brought to you by our maxAllure Mastermind, an exclusive mastermind for physician entrepreneurs. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Param Bala. She is from Generational Wealth MD, where she helps physicians take back control of their time and income by teaching them how to accelerate to financial freedom 5 to 10 times faster by investing in real estate. We have a great conversation with Dr. Bala about real estate and other essential financial topics. Are you ready? Let's go!
Welcome to the Design Your Physician Life podcast, where you will get excited about being a physician, learn the tools that can help boost your success, and great tips from successful doctors. Join us to unlock the keys to an amazing physician life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Myrdalis Diaz-Ramirez.
So welcome everybody to our podcast. Tonight we have Parameshwari Baladandepani, or Param Bala, like she likes to call herself. She's a radiologist, wife, mom, real estate investor, and the creator of generationalwealthmd.com. So thank you, Dr. Baladandepani, to our podcast today.
Thank you, Myrdalis. You actually pronounced my name pretty well, which a lot of people have difficulty with.
I think it's because I speak Spanish and it sounds like Spanish to me. I love it. Well, I met you not so long ago and I was really very impressed by all your accomplishments in all these things, from being a physician and your, motherhood, career, and then transitioning into these real estate investments. And we're here to inspire future physicians, and we want to talk a little bit to them about how you came to this. So I would like to start with why did you choose to become a physician? What inspired you to be a physician?
Well, I will have to say a lot of my drive came from my father. So I was the first physician in our extended family, and it was his dream. But that being said, looking at my life now and thinking backwards, if I had to pick any profession, I love the science part of medicine, where we get to learn everything about this magical, the human body. And I love the art part, where it inspires me every day just to be a better human being and just to help more people. So if I had to do it all over again, I would become a physician. I think as physicians, we have the amazing ability to do good and help others in the time when they need support the most. And we also get to interact with amazing people every day. And every day I cease to be, I'm amazed by how much gratitude and resilience the human spirit has. I'm a breast imager. So most times I'm dealing with patients who need a biopsy or who've been diagnosed with breast cancer, and I'm assisting them through that entire process. And the amount of gratitude and the resilience that I see in these women, it just inspires me. It puts things in perspective. It makes me a better person. And I'm grateful to be in the position where I can help them, and I can help create a world with more birthdays. That's the slogan for the American Cancer Society. That's what I tell myself. I'm helping create a world with more birthdays, and what can be more amazing than that?
Not many people can say that, creating a world of more birthdays. That's just awesome. We choose the career chooses us. And then with it comes this wonderful gift of keeping, the world going. And the patients come to us, and many times without thinking, they give us their lives on our hands, and then it's our responsibility to help them. And the blessings that we have when we can hold their hand, and take them through this process, especially of finding out if they have breast cancer or not, and then what happens after that is just amazing. So before thinking about becoming a doctor, what were you doing?
So I was really interested in the sciences. It just fascinated me. So it was always a choice between going into engineering and something more technical versus medicine. And I'm actually glad that my dad kind of helped steer me and inspire me towards medicine, because it's a blend of just the science and the art of it. And I just love being a physician and doing what we do. As you said, patients trust us with their lives and trust us in a time when they're the most vulnerable. And the amazing thing about medicine is that when you go in, you get to pick from different specialties that are so different in and of themselves, right? So even within radiology as a subspecialty, there are so many different areas where you can get further specialized, and you could be procedural, you could be completely, not doing any procedures. So you have so many options even within medicine that I almost feel like there's a fit for everybody, right? even within medicine.
So what made you choose radiology? And then after radiology, tell us a little bit about what you think radiology means to you, how you chose it, and then after that, how you chose breast as a subspecialty.
Yeah, I like the aspect where radiology is where technology meets all the diagnostic sciences. And I felt even during internship, I realized that a lot of times, even primary care physicians or people in the ER were depending on what the studies showed to help, narrow down their diagnosis. So I like that part of it. I was always into solving mysteries. So you become a problem solver. But then there's also the part where you perform procedures, you do interventions. And initially I was very into interventional radiology, which is very procedural and hands-on. I almost feel like minimally invasive procedures are the way things are progressing. So that was what drew me towards radiology. But over time, just to be completely honest, I realized that I wanted more of a work-life balance. So I was looking at lifestyle also, and breast imaging just fit a lot better because I'm still super procedural. I do a lot of procedures, in breast imaging, but I also have that balance with lifestyle where I don't necessarily have to work weekends or work nights. And so that's how I kind of zeroed in on breast imaging.
So for those who might not know what an interventional radiologist and a breast radiologist do, can you tell us in a nutshell what they are?
Yeah, so radiology is, at this time, radiology is both therapeutic and diagnostic, right? So diagnostic is when you have all the different imaging modalities like ultrasound, CT, MR, and other cross-sectional imaging where you're able to look into the human body and figure out what's wrong. But interventional radiology is the therapeutic portion where oftentimes you're going in through a vessel and radiation. So a lot of different procedures, and there's a little bit of overlap with what vascular surgeons, cardiologists, and interventional radiologists do. But oftentimes it's
and pain management.
Oh my God, yes.
Doctor, and they do also some injections for pain relief. Yeah,
exactly. There's a lot of overlap over there, and it may depend on the institution where you're working, how that's divided. But a lot of us essentially are going in without opening up. This is for procedures where, like I would say 10, 20 years ago, people needed to be opened up. They needed to have actually invasive surgeries for these procedures to be done, even if it was just for a diagnosis. So we're transitioning to more minimally invasive procedures where you're just, going in through either a vessel or you're just going in using landmarks to get to the urethral system or the biliary system to be doing all those therapeutic procedures. I hope that answers the question, but that's essentially what you're doing with interventional radiology.
Yes. And then breast, it limits that area to breast. So you're then doing biopsies, taking pieces of those tissues to show or point to where the lesions are for the surgeons to do their procedures. So it specializes on this area of the body for women, basically looking for a solution for possible cancer, which is the main thing.
So we were doing breast biopsies oftentimes. So it's also super important to have a good subspecialty trained breast radiologist, which helps with staging, where we're not only looking at finding the lesion, but also assessing to see if there are other lesions and what the staging is based on that, if they're spread anywhere, and then sampling those additional areas. And then we also help, as you said, with localization when they go in for surgery to make sure that the surgeon's going into the right spot to remove all the disease. And then you help with the follow-up procedures, placing radiation catheters if the need is there to do, local radiation as opposed to more extensive radiation. So help along the path in multiple different ways.
So if somebody was thinking about radiology as a potential, residency, what sort of characteristics you think that student might have that would help them be a better radiologist?
So I almost feel like just because there are so many different subspecialties within radiology, most of us could find a fit in there. But having good observation skills is a big help because oftentimes you're scrolling through multiple images and you really need to be able to look out and find lesions. Being intellectual helps also because what the brain doesn't know, the eye doesn't see. So you really need to learn and know your anatomy and know that. And if you're a person who likes being hands-on with, as I said, with interventional radiology, then that's a great space to be in also. I think for people who may want, as I mentioned before, it's a little more lifestyle. It could be adapted more to your lifestyle. If you don't want, if you want to have more control over your hours, then I think radiology. So there are some specialties like pain management also that are more lifestyle oriented. And so radiology is one of those. But mostly, if you're intellectual, you like problem solving, you have good observation skills, you're great with anatomy, and if you are procedural also, then there's a lot of opportunity to build on that within radiology.
Yeah, that's anatomy is like the main thing. You are the know-it-all of anatomy. We really rely a lot on you when we're, that's a skill, and all this is developed through time. And it's important to have good mentors along the way. Is there do you have something to say about your mentors? Where did you find them? How did that work for you?
So mentors in radiology, I would say absolutely. So when I started, I had a physician who was primarily specialized in nuclear medicine, which is also something where there's a lot of overlap with radiology. So everyone in a radiology residency program spends enough time in nuclear medicine to be able to read those studies. So I had a mentor and he was doing a lot of research, and it was really nice to see. So I was interested in cardiology and radiology, and it was nice to see nuclear medicine have that overlap, but where cardiologists also read a lot of the studies, and you're able to assess heart functioning, and ejection fractions and all, and actually identify the extent of cardiac ischemia on a nuclear medicine study. But I mean, it's like non-invasive essentially. So just seeing that and seeing how good he was with research and academics, it was inspiring. It kind of almost pushed me towards radiology. So it does help having good mentors. When you see what they're capable of doing, when you see how they inspire other people, I think it definitely does push you one way or the other.
Yeah, it's awesome. I have like my moment with my mentor. I dedicate everything I've done in pain management to him because he was truly an inspiration. And it's when we find inspiration on our professors, the way they live, the way they treat the patients, is when, we have these moments when we say, oh, this is like what I would really like to do. But in medicine, like many other areas, like we're super hyper, we're super, high achievers. We want to do all these things. And then we are really not taught about other parts of life that we should know about, besides the medicine and choosing the right career for us and our patients. And these things are about, in the financial world and in planning our lives in these ways. So let's move a little bit towards that topic. And when we go through medical school, they really don't have this as part of the curriculum necessarily. I know that it's becoming more common knowledge. And one thing that we've learned, when we talk and discuss financial topics, is very important that people understand physicians, we are going to be making money as a physician, not at the expense of others, but at the service of others. But once you do that, it's what you do with that and how you organize your lives, not only for yourself, but only for your family. So let's talk about some steps that people who are going to have their first job as residents should start to take because we don't earn our first salary until we're residents. But when we become residents, even though it's not the salary that we would like to have after so many years of studying, still a salary that is comparable to many of the people in the United States. So what sort of things you think we should think of in achieving when we're having our first job?
Yeah, that's a great point, Myrdalis, and I completely agree with you that because we're on this track of becoming physicians, there's almost this assumption that just by becoming physicians, because we're high earners, we're securing we're getting financial security just from our income. But what I'm seeing more and more is that high income doesn't necessarily translate to high net worth, right? Because with the high income, also you also have debt from your student loans, and you also have the doctor lifestyle. You buy the doctor house, the doctor car, and a lot of people find that a few years down the line, they're really not in a better position and they're not where they thought they would be. So it's really important to be very intentional about how you manage your finances and how you educate yourself. And I think the one thing that has the highest impact on how financially secure you are is how early you start, which is why I like what you're doing, because I think it's super important for medical students and residents to think about this early on, because that's just going to make them that much more financially independent faster. And so I like to break it up into a bunch of different things, right? So you need to protect yourself, you need to be investing wisely, and then you need to also know how you're saving and how you're handling your debt. So I'm going to just break it into those three topics. And
Dr. Balandapani, I just want to have finally my nice house and my nice car and all these things. I'm ready. I studied for it.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I did. And then like 10
Me
years
too.
after doing that, I was like, wait, I could have, so you can do it. You can have the nice car and you can have the nice house, but you just need to make a few intentional changes to make sure you're protecting that nice house. And while you're doing that, you're also securing yourself so that so when you have financial independence, you have more choices and you practice medicine and you live life on your terms. And that's super important. And we don't want you, and this is why Myrdalis is doing this. We don't want you to be, 10 years out as an attending and then saying, oh my God, wait, why am I still not financially secure? You want to be starting really early on and that's the beauty of compound growth, right? When you start 10 years earlier, that is going to have the biggest impact on how soon you get to being financially independent. And all that means is that then you can, as I said, you just practice medicine the way you want to. You have the power to choose how you want to practice medicine. It gives you freedom, it gives you choice, and you can live your life the way you want to. So all of this is just getting you to that point where you're not going to look, 10 years down the line, you're going to be like, I wish I knew this because I did that. And I'm sure you did that too, Myrdalis. We're always like, looking and saying, wait,
Totally.
why didn't I know this? Why didn't someone tell me this when I was 20, when it would have had the greatest impact? So that's all this is about. Absolutely. So as far as protecting goes, I think it's really important to think about protection early on. And what I like to say is if you're thinking long-term disability insurance, that's something I really want everyone to think about while they're in residency or maybe even in fellowship, because the rates that you get are going to be significantly better than when you start practicing as an attending because your income goes up. So definitely think about getting personal own occupation, long-term disability insurance. That's something I always recommend during residency. At least start looking into it, run the numbers and make sure you know what you're getting into. And if you choose not to, that's fine, but that's the time to be doing that. The other thing is...
So before you go on, that's the one thing I have since I was resident. And I'm so happy because, 10, 20 years, guys, just think about the 40-year-old, the 50-year-old who's coming. Those people, they have more diseases, right? So it's less likely that they're going to get a good rate for this type of insurance. So when do you get it? When you're young and you don't have anything. For most of us, that's the time. So when you're in your 20s, get this type of insurance.
Absolutely. And you don't even have to max out on it. You can, as long as you have it structured where you could increase it if you need coverage, if you needed to, because when you go to when you take your first job, you may have long-term disability insurance through the organization, through your employer. But again, if you have personal long-term disability insurance, that's portable. So you carry it with you and you always get better rates early on. So definitely consider that. If you have kids or you're starting a family, then it's also good to think about life insurance at that point, because the same logic, when you're younger, it's cheaper and you get significantly better rates. So it's good to think about that. And I always say, when you're thinking life insurance, get good term life insurance, because that's the cheapest and that's the best thing. And as physicians, oftentimes that's all you need. So look at term life insurance. So that's as far as protecting. And then I also want to quickly mention wills and trusts. So it's good to, especially if you have kids, and most people have kids during residency, it's good to think about actually getting a trust structure set up. Because again, you want to protect your family, and anything that you build upon and you earn, if you're not protecting it adequately, you don't want your family to have to go through probate in the event that something happens. So that's just from the protection point of view.
And what type of lawyer do you need for that?
Well, a good estate lawyer who specifically works in your state, because state laws also kind of define how you set up your trust. So I think it's always good to go to a good lawyer who works in your state and is aware of those laws to help you set that up. You could do it through your employer, and I always say explore those options, but make sure you have a good living trust in place, which is different from a testamentary trust. So you just want to make sure you have a good living trust in place. If you choose to go that way, I would say at least explore those options, especially if you have kids and if you have a primary residence or you have other assets that you want to protect.
And yes, it's going to be expensive, but it's important to protect your children. That's your legacy, and that's where you start. So once you start, like there's someone pregnant, either you or your partner or somebody's pregnant on your behalf, you go and you walk to the lawyer's office, the state lawyer's office, and then you say, hey, what do I have to do?
Exactly. At least start those conversations, at least have those discussions, be aware. You don't want to be blindsided. You don't want to be thinking it later and wishing you had done it earlier. So that's as far as the protecting aspect. And now that we got that out of the way, I want to talk about how you save and invest. Right. And I think a book that was pivotal for me was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't know if you read that, Myrdalis.
But totally, that changed my life. That's it. That's it.
Yes. And you don't want to read that book in your late 30s. You want to be reading that book in your 20s. So if you haven't read it, just go to Amazon, just order it, get the book. There's a lot of fluff in it, but it does bring out a few very key concepts that I think are super important when you're starting out. So it just tells you how there are different quadrants. You can be an employee or self-employed, but someone who's a business person or an investor has a lot of advantages to being there, and you want to surround yourself with people like that. So a lot of key concepts I would definitely recommend reading the book. It also talks to you about how important it is to save and spend on assets that put money in your pocket as opposed to liabilities where it's taking money out of your pocket. Good concepts to know. I'm not saying, don't buy the doctor house, don't have a nice vacations. You should be doing all that. You should be very intentional about how you do it. And so once you've understood the concept of saving and investing, I think the first thing to do is to make sure you're taking advantage of all the tax advantaged ways you can invest money. So that would be your 401. And I know a lot of employers, even during residency, some of them will do a match for you when you want to max out your 401 and you want to make sure you're taking advantage of of your employer match. So a 401 is a good place. So those are tax advantaged ways of investing. That just means your money is going to get you further. So you want to make sure you max out all those tax advantaged vehicles before you go to your post-tax brokerage accounts where you're going to start investing. Roth IRAs for residents, I think, are super important. I did not do this when I was a resident. I heard about it. I know, Myrdalis.
So I have 15-year-old kids now. They know all this stuff. And here's the thing. Rich Dad, Poor Dad will teach you how your house is not an asset. But here's the thing. Look at the book. But not only look at the book yourself, read it with your partner. Yes. And if your partner is not into that book, get a different partner. Because that's like the dating. I think it should be like a requirement for dating. You read this book with me, you like it with me? Yeah, okay.
Or we're on the same page.
Yeah, we have to be on the same page.
I agree. So I completely agree. Or at least take snapshots if they're not willing to read it and text it to them and keep texting it to them. Put it on somewhere so they understand the concepts, because it's going to have a huge impact. And so Roth IRAs, yes, if you can max out your Roth IRA, that's the time where you can do it. And because you are in this tax advantage, you're likely going to be making less than $150,000 as a couple. Therefore, you can directly contribute to your Roth IRA. That money, you don't pay taxes on it, and you are going to be able to post-tax money, but that's going to grow without you having to pay any taxes on it when you withdraw from it. And that's going to have a huge impact over the years. 10 years down the line, you're going to be very glad you did that. And then if you have an HSA, if you have a high deductible plan and you have an HSA, that's a good option also to have money that's tax deferred, that you're not paying any taxes on, and you could invest that within the HSA and have that grow. Those are important ways to maximize your tax advantaged vehicles as during residency. I wanted to mention that. And so once you've done that, and now you have your post-tax money, I think it's super important for anyone. And so the two vehicles that I really like are stocks or equities, and especially for someone young who wants to be aggressive in their growth portfolio, right? So you're going to be looking at stocks, and you're going to be looking at, I would just say, consider real estate. It may not be for everyone, but we'll talk about that. When you're talking about equities, I think it's very important to invest in index funds. It's a safe, easy way for anyone to get into the stock market. Index funds have really low expense ratios, and they're a blend of, so the S&P 500 is a blend of the 500 big companies that have shown great potential. So you could be in a value fund or a growth fund, but just investing in index funds and then putting a little bit of money in it. So dollar cost average, right? So set it up so it's automatic. Every month, a little bit of money goes in. You're investing. There's also the concept of drip investing, which is where your dividends that it throws out are reinvested in there. And all of that is going to grow, have the magic of compound growth is going to happen. And then 10 years on, you're going to look at that and you're going to go, there's no way you can save that money. You just need to be investing it, right? So index funds, I like Vanguard index funds. And I'm sure like most people you talk to will say Vanguard index funds, S&P 500 or a total stock market index funds. Those are great vehicles to be using. They're super easy to set up. And I have posts about this on my website. I know Myrdalis mentioned at www.generationalwealthmd.com. There is a blog post about how you pick your funds, how you decide what your asset allocation is going to be. But for someone who's in medical school or residency, when you're investing, you can afford to be super aggressive because you're not going to be tapping into it anytime soon. So S&P 500 index funds or a total stock market index fund is a great way. Just dollar cost average, set it up and just let that happen. And then you will see the magic 10, 15 years down the line. So I think that's super important. And then I don't know if you want to say something, Myrdalis.
Yeah, so we've mentioned quite a few things here very quickly. I just want to go back for a little bit and then mention what a 401k is. Basically, it's like a savings, a way of saving and investing that you get when you're an employee. So then you get like a little bit of your money. You can set that up with whenever you get to an employment situation where you're full-time, your company might have this available for you, and most of the residences will have it. And then besides you getting money out of your monthly check, you're going to get the employer match that. So they give you a little bit extra money. So as soon as you can do that and you have your maximum amount there, that's investable money. And then that can be transferred later when you change jobs, which you will after your residency. Most of us do. Then the Roth IRA is something that you can do. And that's, many times it's done where, depending on how much you earn, is another way of saving. And then an HSA is a health savings account. Basically, it's some extra money that you save for any health expenses. But the beauty of that money is that you can spend it investing that money. So it's without tax repercussions. And then you're talking, you're listening to us talking about, saving this money. And then with all the debt that you have, from your loans. But if you get organized, these are things that can be done. And we're telling you early because the earliest that you start with them, the earliest that you can get to your financial independence, which is something that can be discussed later. But, when you have your school debt, most of the time it's going to be at a very low percentage. So then you can take advantage of that money that you bought or borrowed for your medical school and then keep that percentage low while making your wealth grow on a different side. That's my
absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to touch on student loans also, Myrdalis, because this is a controversial topic. Because there are people like who are in I call it the Dave Ramsey camp, where it's like, well, you have the student debt, you need to pay that down as soon as possible. But I want anyone listening to this podcast to do what Myrdalis said. So look at your student debt, look at what interest you're paying on it, and then just look at how much you'd be making if you invest that money elsewhere. And then you have to make a conscious decision based on your debt appetite, whether you're going to pay that student debt down, or you have student loan with an interest rate of less than 4%. That's considered low interest debt. If you have that, would you rather just invest the money at something? So index funds over the last 100 years have the S&P and the total stock market have had 10% annual average returns. So would you rather invest in something that gives you 10% as opposed to paying down debt that's less than 4%? That's going to be a personal choice, but you need to definitely explore that and make sure you're intentional about it, as opposed to thinking about it 10 years later and saying, oh, well, maybe I should have done that. You should really be thinking about it now. And I completely agree with Myrdalis on that. So we covered most things. I do want to talk a little bit about real estate, because I think looking back, I feel like I could have started investing in real estate even during residency. So it may not be for everyone, but I want you, again, just give it some thought and make sure you know what you're doing and you're absolutely sure that it does or does not work for you. So I have a coaching program and I coach people in real estate. And I've told a lot of people about something called a kiddie loan, which is where even when you're in medical school, you could actually buy, and I have had a few people then go ahead and buy properties where a parent can co-sign with the child. And because the child is living in that property during medical school, you're able to finance it with really low down payments, where anywhere you could pay as little as 3 to 10% in down payments. And then you get much better interest rates because it's owner occupied, especially in the current market. And then you're able to rent out the other bedrooms to other students. And you could essentially be living rent free, even in medical school, and own real estate, build equity in that, and then continue to rent that to other medical students when you decide to move out. So it's definitely something to consider. Again,
even from college, that can be done. Like my kids, I have 2 kids, and that's what we're hoping. So here's the thing: so for medical school, choosing a medical school, that's a conversation for a different day. But college and everything, you try to choose the things that are going to get you to your goals with the least expenses. Basically, that's what you try to do. Unless you really looking for something special that particular school is going to give you, either social engineering or whatever it is you have, the love of your life is in that school, because then there's no fighting that, right? But anything taken into account, you try to do the cheapest thing. So going to college, you can do house hacking, which is what you were describing.
Yes.
Or you can do like buy a little duplex where you build, you live on one side, and then the other person renting the other side is paying your rent and paying your building off. So those are alternatives. And that's like, my goodness, I wish I would have done that.
Yes.
So yes, renting is wonderful for many reasons, because the other person is in charge. But if you're the one renting, you're acquiring money, you're acquiring your financial freedom slowly when you start with these little steps, which can be as early as college.
Exactly. All that money you're paying towards rent is just money that's gone. But instead, if you put a down payment down and you purchase a property and do what I and Myrdalis are talking about, where you live in the property and rent out portions of it, you're building equity. You have a property that's increasing in value. Your net worth is increasing, even while you sleep. And that's the magic of owning real estate. And so that can be done, as she said, during college, during medical school, and it could also be done during residency. I didn't really do it during any of those times. I started afterwards, but in hindsight, it would have been great to do it ahead of time. Now, yes, it's important to know your market. It's important to know how you're running numbers. So a little bit of education is important. And so you can go onto the blog. There's information for beginner investors. I even have a calculator in there that's free that helps you if you pick a property and you want to just see, okay, was this really making sense? It helps you plug in all the numbers, including your mortgage, what your expenses are going to be, and then you end of the day, what rent you're going to be able to collect for it. And it tells you what your cash flow is going to be. So you want to make sure you're at least, neutral or having some cash flow in it. And it's easy to have those calculators. Okay, awesome. So that's about it, I guess, in terms of what I think are great, points for people to know when they're starting out. And I'm going to let Myrdalis ask any more questions if you have them.
Well, I think this has been wonderful. In terms of, education, it's important that we get a financial education. You mentioned a wonderful book, which is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I wish I had read it 20 years ago. Because that really made the change in my life, and not only for my life, really for many physicians that we've met in the last couple of years. And then we're really learning a lot of things together. Besides Rich Dad, Poor Dad, we have your website. It's generationalwealthmd.com, which is really a great source of information. One more book that you might want to consider recommending, one more source, anything you can think of?
Oh, wow. I have a lot of tax books, but I don't want anyone to get crazy about tax laws. But a good book that I'm reading right now is Never Split the Difference. It's about negotiations, and it's about negotiating in everyday life, negotiating at work. So I think that'd be super helpful for anyone who's in residency who may then be looking to negotiate their first job. I think that's a great book. Yeah, I think that'll be a great resource. It talks about empathy and actually building connection and helping people get what they want and getting what you want. So I think it'll be a great book for life for everyone.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for being here tonight. And I really hope that our listeners will take this into account and start their journeys, their financial journeys, and choose great residencies for them and for their patients. So thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you, Myrdalis. Thank you for having me on.
Well, guys, that's it for today. Stay tuned for more of our Design Your Physician Life podcast, which was brought to you again today by our maxAllure Mastermind, an exclusive mastermind for physician entrepreneurs. We will continue to bring you useful resources to develop your physician entrepreneurial life, like we did today with Dr. Param Bala from Generational Wealth MD. Her website is generationalwealthmd.com. Thanks for joining us. We hope you had a great time like we did. Stay in touch with us. Visit our website, www.maxallure.com. That is MAXALLURE. And please don't forget to subscribe, like us, give us 5 stars, and share the love with your friends and family. See you later. Thanks. Bye.
Please remember that Design is not providing specific financial, medical, or career advice. Our only intent is to stimulate your appetite for growth by sharing our experience and those of our speakers, coaches, and guests. Your personal growth and success will be unique to your circumstances and your hard work. We sincerely hope you enjoyed the show and look forward to seeing you next week.